Hello and welcome to Seoul for qualifying round 15 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. The 2022 title fight will reach its climax this weekend, and what better place to crown our champion. We're breaking new ground this weekend in South Korea on a circuit that will see us drive into the 1988 Olympic Stadium and then out to tear up the streets of Seoul. This is the race for the finish line. On your marks, get set for the Seoul E-Prix.
And we go green in Seoul. Tyre wins.
Woohoo! Guys, good job.
And Byrne hits the back of the Costa. It's a double win for Mitch Evans. Stoffel Van Dorn moves to the lead of the championship. This is the one. Stoffel Van Dorn, he is in a very strong place heading to South Korea.
Hi everyone, this is it. This is the final weekend of Season 8. We are in a brand new location. We are in the South Korean capital of Seoul. It's really exciting. Dario Franchitti, Jack Nicholls, brand new location like I said. Is it the perfect venue for our season finale, Dario?
I think the circuit is. I think it's a fantastic circuit. 2.6 kilometres, 22 turns, but it's really a track of two halves. You've got a very tight, twisty, technical section in the first half. And in that first half, you go into the Olympic Stadium and you got these long right-hand corners through there, back onto the city streets. It's bumpy, it's a lot quicker on that point, good overtaking opportunities, and it is going to test the driver, so a fitting place to finish Season 8.
Jack, you and I went out last night, loads of energy in Seoul, very, dare I say it, electric. People absolutely buzzing in the city. It's a fantastic location. It's great to be here.
Oh yeah, it's my first time here. I am officially now a Seoul man. I really am a big fan of this. Exactly, big fan of this city. And I'm so excited to see the reaction from the fans here too, because we've been to you've broken some great new ground this year. You think of Jakarta, London, the grandstands were packed, and Seoul as well. Not a huge history of motor racing here. There was an F1 race for sort of 3 or 4 years, but overall, it's just been such a great place to race. As Dario said, the 1988 Olympic Stadium. I mean, before I was born, but it's still cool.
Oh, he threw that one in, didn't he?
Ouch.
Before I was born. Crikey,
Jack.
We were raving in the Hacienda then, Dario.
Exactly right.
Damn good year.
Fake ID.
Jack, tell us about the championship, because Stoffel Van Dorn is at the top of the table, closely followed by Mitch Evans, Jev and Eduardo Mortara as well. Is it Stoffel's to lose this weekend?
It is, but he could still lose it because he's had such a consistent year, Stoffel Van Dorn. That's why he's 36 points ahead of Mitch Evans in the championship. Evans is 5 points ahead of Eduardo Mortara. But all the other drivers this year have had shocker weekends where something's gone terribly wrong. The closest Van Dorn has had was back of the grid in Marrakesh through to 8th, or he finished 11th in Mexico City. He hasn't had a catastrophe, and you don't wish it on him. Evans maybe in the back of his mind will be a little bit. It's tough.
Stoffel Van Dorn going into this, he's cool, he's calm, he's collected. He's had a very consistent season, Dario. Surely, his mindset's perfect now.
Well, I think he's on very good form, but the guys who are chasing him, Mitch Evans, Edo Mortara, they need Stoffel to have a shocker, and they need to win the race at the same time today to stay in contention tomorrow. So qualifying is going to be super important.
All right, well, let's go over to Nikki, who is with the man of the moment outside the Mercedes EQ garage. Nikki.
Thanks, Vernon. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to say that the driver we are going to be talking about all weekend is, of course, our championship leader for Mercedes EQ, Stoffel Van Dorn. He's here with me now. Stoffel, this is a huge weekend. You don't need me to remind you of that. But talk us through the preparation, the planning that has gone in today. Because I know you talk about it as being, oh, it's like every other race weekend, but it's not really, is it?
No, it's definitely not really. I mean, there's obviously 2 championships to fight for, the drivers for myself, and obviously the constructors as well. But in terms of the approach, you know, we're approaching it as any other event, and I think that's our best tool to you know, to try and clinch these titles. I think we've been very consistent all year round. I've been able to put in some good performances, and that's exactly what I'm going to need today as well.
And you don't have to wrap up the title today. You've got the opportunity to do it tomorrow. So what is the plan for today? What is the goal?
Well, the goal is to have a good qualifying, try to make it to the duels, and then have a good race from there. And then we see, I think ultimately the points, they're counted at the end. So yeah, we'll get there when we get there. But first we got to qualify. It looks like the weather is coming as well. So not sure how that is going to pan out. But it's the same for everyone.
Well, fingers crossed it does stay dry, because you're right, Stoffel. It is starting to feel very damp in the air. Well, all the best for qualifying, and we'll catch up with you later. Stoffel Vandoorne.
Well, second in the championship coming into this weekend. Mitch Evans, how were the 2 practice sessions?
To be honest, they've been really tough. We haven't really hit the ground running. We've just been struggling from the first lap to try and get the car into the window. So we've been trying to make setup changes, and trying to adapt to the circuit, but we haven't found the sweet spot yet. The guys are working really hard behind me to try and make some more changes to try and make me feel more comfortable on track, and just trying to get a bit more pace out of the car. So not ideal going into qualifying. It's probably going to rain anyway, so like everything we've learned is probably going to be thrown out the window. But yeah, it's not been a clean start, so hopefully we can turn things around.
So you up for some rain?
I think right now I wouldn't mind some rain, yeah. To be honest, I was looking forward to today, because I thought that this track should suit us. But it just hasn't really worked out that way. So so a bit of rain right now, maybe a little blessing.
You said coming into the weekend, the pressure feels like it's off and you're quite chilled, but still, when it comes down to it, it's frustrating if things aren't going your way. Yeah,
and obviously, to be honest, every Formula E qualifying, doesn't matter if it's the first race of the year or not, it's stressful. So obviously, I know what's at stake this weekend. But to be honest, I feel no different in other weekends. You got to do your bit. You got to try and put the car together, put it in its window, execute the laps when it counts. So it's no different this weekend. Just at the moment, it's not coming as easy as I would have liked.
Best of luck.
Cheers.
He's got a fight on his hands, but I'm telling you what, Dario, his body language doesn't look like the Mitch Evans that we know and love.
No, absolutely not. But he is a fighter. We've seen him do that before, and he's going to have to do that today. He's going to have to just forget what's happened this morning, get so focused on this qualifying session. He needs a perfect lap. He needs to be on pole position. He needs those 3 points to keep him in championship contention, I would say.
Now, he did mention it there. The weather this week in Seoul has been horrific. State of national emergency. We've got rain coming in. It is predicted. Let's take a look at the radar. How is this going to affect qualifying in the race, Dario?
It depends when it arrives. That's the thing. If it arrives, if they get both group sessions in, then they'll set qualifying positions from the groups. If they don't get any running in, you see the weather coming from the west.
I've always wanted to do that.
We're right there. If we don't get any qualifying in, it will go on free practice 2 times, in which case Mitch Evans is at the back. Track conditions will be treacherous if it's wet, and it's just going to mix things up even further.
All right, this is it. Strap yourselves in. This is our first qualifying session of the weekend for the finale.
Time then for the first qualifying session of this season finale of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. There is a look at one of the iconic landmarks in Seoul, and these are the drivers that will be out in the first group of qualifying. The odd-placed drivers in the championship. Vandoorne first, Mortara third, Da Costa fifth, etc. All the way down the order. And this is a tricky group. I think at least anyone in the top 6 or 7 on that list could make it through. No rain just yet. And that is what the circuit that the drivers will be taking to in a few moments. As soon as I said no rain yet, Dario Franchitti has just shaken his head at me.
Yeah, just walked in, Jack, and it is sprinkling. It's not heavy yet, but it's coming.
There is Stoffel Vandoorne. Kind of big pressure on. How does this work, right? Is there big pressure on Vandoorne to get through to the groups? Like, how do you feel when you're in that scenario? Because it's not all or nothing. You've got a 36-point championship lead. You can get the job done tomorrow. It's fine. But surely there would be more. He'd have had more pressured qualifying sessions earlier this year.
I hate to say this, and I've said it before, Jack, you've just got to put all that out of your mind, just maximise what you've got. You can only get 100% out of the thing. And just because it's in the championship fight, whether you're Mitch Evans, Stoffel Vandoorne, Edo Mortara, you can just get everything. You've got to just set your mind up, get the perfect lap. That's all you can do. And it's so difficult to do, especially if it is going to rain, because you see the painted lines there. When we go out in the city streets, there's loads of lines all over the place. Parking lot, you've got crosswalks, all kinds of stuff. And it just makes it even more difficult to get any kind of form book for these next qualifying sessions.
So that was inside the 1988 Olympic Stadium. Now we come out through the left-hander of turn 16. Then this is a fast sequence of corners through 17 and 18.
Let's think about cleaning the fronts, cleaning the fronts.
Think about cleaning the fronts, Stephen Lane saying to Stoffel Van Dorn. What does that mean?
That means almost overturning the car, using more lock than you would to try and scrub the tyre across the surface of the track, just to get rid of maybe some of the marbles from earlier when you used the tyre last. If it's me right now, I'm going to be going out and trying to do a lap, even on this first lap. I'm trying not maybe to do a prep lap, because if the rain comes down, you've gained that advantage on a 98% dry track.
New York,
exactly right, Jack. And that's where being the championship team as Mercedes EQ are. They've got track position because they are closest to pit exit, so they've got that advantage. See Stoffel Van Dorn slowing down, looking in his mirror. He's got to get out there and get on with it and get that lap done, but he actually didn't go out to the garage first, so that's interesting.
So that is the timing line, and that is Edoardo Mortara having a little lock up into the right-hander of turn 1. Then he swings left at 2 and 3 and back down towards the baseball stadium at turn 4. Now, it is big pressure on Mortara. If he has any hope of the championship, he has basically got to be in the qualifying duels. There's no doubt about that in my mind, because to really put the pressure on Van Dorn, he needs to finish on the podium and hope that Van Dorn doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. And you can say the same for Evans too. But yeah, these guys, every member of the teams have put so much into these seasons, and it comes down to this. So you can't afford to let nerves get in your way, whether it's the championship at stake in the last round or the first round of the season.
So a reminder, we've got 11 cars in this session. The top 4 will advance through to the duels, and then 5th place will start on row 5, 6th will start on row 6. So it's all about being inside the top 4, so close to the wall there on the exit for Edoardo Mortara. He's out there. Andre Lotterer is next through in the Porsche. That is a new livery for this weekend, a one-off livery for the Porsche team. And that is Stoffel Van Dorn in the other Mercedes EQ. De Costa's done a 22.7. Mortara turns it into the final corner at turn 22, out across the line. And the Venturi man goes 4th quickest, 6/10 away from Jake Dennis, who's at the top of the times. Van Dorn was quicker than Dennis in Sector 1, slower in Sector 2, and quicker in Sector 3, so ends up 2nd fastest. Sete Camera goes into 5th. Here comes Oliver Turvey across the line. He goes into 8th place. Then we've got Antonio Giovinazzi in the other Dragon. Buemi goes up into 3rd position. Giovinazzi goes up into 6th place. So, bad opening offer from Edoardo Mortara. At the moment, Van Dorn through in 2nd. Jake Dennis has had 2 pole positions in a row in London. And it looks a bit drizzly in the stadium.
Yeah, and
pretty drizzly.
This is the point. If you are Edo Mortara, for instance, you go, please don't rain, not just yet. Oh, and it's raining. Yeah, it's really raining.
And that first lap from Mortara was nowhere near good enough. Delphine Biscay, the team manager at Rocket Venturi. But at the moment, Dennis, Van Dorn, Buemi and Askew would be the 4 that would advance, and will they be able to find any more time once they come back into the pits? You can see the rain coming down.
And if you're Mortara, would you do a cool down lap and go again rather than come in the pits? It looks like he's coming in. No, he's going to stay out, and he's doing exactly that.
And the rain can be deceptive, right? Especially on a hot place here, 28 degrees. You need quite a bit of moisture for it to affect and not just to evaporate off sometimes.
I absolutely agree. I'm just not sure how much rain there is.
That's the question.
Headset off and running outside.
Yeah. 7 minutes to go. There's Lotterer. Behind him is Mortara. Now Mortara, they're running at 220 kilowatts of power, so Mortara is going to go again. Through the right-hander. Dario has literally taken his headset off and gone to look outside. Looked a bit slippery at 2 for Mortara. And the weather report is...
you never go.
Van Dorn's returned to the pits. That's quite interesting. So Van Dorn back in the pits. Everybody else still out there. Freitz has just set the fastest first sector of anyone. Let's see Mortara's first sector split. Dennis is through as well. Van Dorn, the only one pitting. Very interesting. Mortara is up in the first sector.
And this surface, this new surface, the oils are going to be coming out with all the water starting to go on the surface. Then you got into this section, you see those painted lines again. When those get slightly damp, it could be very, very slippery. But so far, so good.
Prince has lost a lot of time in the middle sector. This is a really interesting call now from Stoffel Van Dorn. Championship leader, only man in the pits at the moment. Mortara coming now into the right-hander of turn 18. Now he's coming down towards turn 20. He's 600ths away from Dennis after the first two sectors. This is turn 20. Now down towards turn 22.
You're just willing the rain just to hold off if you're Edo Mortara, just for a couple of more seconds to allow you to finish this lap with the dry circuit.
Through the right-hander at turn 22. Is this going to be enough for Mortara to jump him up into the top four? Quickest, a 22.397 for Eduardo Mortara.
Oh, that changes things a wee bit.
Van Dorn sitting in the pit lane. If the rain comes now, well, it depends if anyone else is really improving.
Visor down. Is it going?
Visor down, tear off. Sete Camera up into third. But no one else is quite improving at the moment, enough that is notable. Big lap that from Eduardo Mortara.
That's what you got to do under pressure.
Van Dorn joins the circuit.
And was that a misstep from the Mercedes EQ team?
Well, he's going to get the chance to do another lap. He's fourth at the moment, Van Dorn. No one is close to pushing him out currently. So I think it hasn't cost him anything so far, I would suggest.
How many cars are on a cool-down lap, though? That's the question. And how much heat has he managed to retain in those tyres? Has he put a new set on? You really need to go on this first lap. You can't afford to do an out lap as he's on, then a preparation lap, then go. I think you got to go, because every second you wait means more chance of the rain.
In the stadium.
Slippery in the stadium, reports Van Dorn as we...
And that's that new surface we talked about. You see the cars coming into pit lane on the right-hand side of your screen. That's good news for Stoffel Van Dorn. We see Edo Mortara followed by Jake Dennis coming in the pits. Those two, 1 and 2 right now on the timing screen.
So Mortara back in the pit lane. The drizzle coming down a little more. We just had a look down the Han River towards the west, where the weather is coming into this country, or to the capital. Well, also to the country, because we're quite near the coast, actually. So here comes Van Dorn. He's going to be... Now, interestingly, he's going to be the first driver out to do a lap here on his second run in the second 6 minutes. Maybe he would get time for another one. Oh, big send into 2.
Yeah, and you're seeing that those spots on the camera, and over those lines again. It's going to be slippery. Look at the car darting around as he comes through turn 5. Now he's going to go down the ramp onto this new surface. Look how much the car slid as he hit that new surface. And you can hear the car sliding, fighting to put the power down.
First sector split from Van Dorn is nowhere. 7/10 away. This lap is nothing for Van Dorn.
But that's also good for Van Dorn, because it means if he's 7/10 off and it looked clean, nobody else is going to go quickly. Look at the car just sliding around. And if you're the engineer, you're going, okay, pit, just don't risk, because the last thing you want is to put the car in the wall.
He's on the bubble at the moment, and if Van Dorn can't improve in these tricky conditions because it's too wet, then as Dario says, no one else, in theory, would be able to improve either. 2.5 minutes to go. Everyone's still in the pit, so they're all going to do an out and a push.
Ask you, Da Costa.
Stay out.
Brave stuff from Stephen Lane. Right? Stoffel Van Dorn's
engineer. He's got to do a lap in the second 6 minutes.
What do you think is best? So we finish this lap and then cool.
So finish this lap, then cool, and then we'll decide whether we go again or not, I think, is basically the theory here from Mercedes, because they have to put a lap in the second half of the session anyway.
And that's where you need a calm engineer. I don't think they come much calmer than Stephen Lane. Keeping his driver calm, giving him some view of the big picture.
Da Costa's on a lap as well, and he's 1.3 seconds down in the first sector. The plan for Van Dorn is to cool the brakes down and keep the tyres warm, but Da Costa has no pace at all here.
And he accelerated out of turn 14, and the car just slid all the way up the hill into turn 15 on that surface in the stadium. Obviously an open-top stadium, the Olympic Stadium, and he's backed off.
So Da Costa backs off, 90 seconds to go. Everybody else leaving the pit lane now. what are the track conditions going to be like? The thing is, if it stops raining, it'll kind of dry up quite quickly because of the heat.
You see the window wipers on the cars over to the left of the circuit. That would tell you it's raining pretty hard.
So Da Costa is probably going to be the most likely driver to knock Van Dorn out of the top 4. He's done a sort of back off, I suppose, and now is going to go pushing again, Da Costa, with a clear track. Locker.
Oh, it was all over the place coming into turn 22. The lap starts now.
Here comes Da Costa into turn 1. Oh, nowhere.
There's just no grip, is it? I mean, look at that. As soon as he touched the throttle, and this is on the grippy part. Missed the corner in 2 and 3. There's just no grip. Absolutely no grip, and it's going to get really slippery when he gets into the stadium section.
But the rain has sort of stopped at the moment. It's not continuing and getting heavier at the moment. Still drizzle.
No,
it's drizzling quite a lot.
We've now opened the door. We've gone really high tech. Vernon opened the door for us. And yeah, okay. So that's pretty much that. 19 seconds to go. If somebody else improves, I think I'll be hiring them as a driver.
So let's see what Robin Freitz can do down in 9th place for the Dutchman. Lotter has returned to the pit. Askew's, as we just saw, getting out of the car. You can hear Freitz sliding all the way around as he comes through the chicane.
I will box because it's too wet. Yeah, copy. So we're happy to box now. Box now.
I mean, Robin Freitz, look at this. Look at the car sliding. Listen. Just listen to when he tries to go on the throttle.
This is going to be an action-packed qualifying Group B.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Now, if you're Stoffel Van Dorn, you need Group B to happen so that the qualifying is based on qualifying. If qualifying Group B does not happen, it's going to go back to the second practice time. So Van Dorn's going to start a lot further towards the rear of the field.
So Van Dorn returning to the pit lane, too wet to improve, and Van Dorn saying he's struggling to keep it on the track on the in-lap. You can see Freitz is backed off as well now. He was 4 seconds down in Sector 1. So this qualifying Group B is going to be Larry o'clock.
This also gives that chance to Mitch Evans. If it's like this afternoon, it's more of a chance that Stoffel Van Dorn makes a big mistake.
Sede Camera did it again. 3rd place for the Dragon Penske driver, and he is into the top 4. Still no seat for next year. Seemingly.
Seat announced.
Yeah,
I'm hearing things.
Yeah.
If he was not in the Formula E grid next year, it would be a travesty, in my opinion. As you know, I'm a pretty big Sergio Sette Camera fan. I think he's outperformed that car so many occasions. Yes, he's made mistakes. Yeah, he's put the car in the wall a couple of times, but he has pushed it so close to the limit that sometimes he's gone over it.
Mortara, Dennis, Sede Camera and Van Dorn, the 4 drivers that will advance through. No huge shocks really. Lotter are out, he's kind of struggled all day. Freitz has had up and down in qualifying recently for Freitz. He hasn't been in the duel. He's only been in the duels once in the last 6 races. But Mortara got the job done when it mattered. His first lap was not good, but that second push, as the track got a little damper, a little more damp, was good stuff from Mortara.
Yeah, it really was good, and good car control, good finding the limit. At this point, you're also getting information in the bank for the race this afternoon. Is it going to be wet? What's the grip level on each of these surfaces?
Qualifying Group A done. And it is Mortara, Dennis, Camera and Van Dorn that advance through to the duels. Buemi eliminated along with Askew, Da Costa, Giovinazzi, Freitz, Turvey and Lotterer. So going to get going with qualifying Group B in a few moments' time. Oliver Askew's under investigation for minimum pit stop time. But let's head down to Nicky Shields.
Well, clearly weather is the big talking point, and what's really unique about Formula E when it comes to the weather is that we have this all-weather tyre provided by Michelin since the beginning of Formula E, way back in 2014. Joining me now is Mathieu Bonadel, the head of motorsport at Michelin. Mathieu, you've been part of this journey with Formula E right back in the Gen 1 era. Just talk to us about the development of this all-weather tyre and how interesting it is that, or how hard it's going to be for the drivers to race in this rain today.
Yes, actually 8 years ago when the Formula E concept came to life, it also was interesting for us to create a tire which would have seen nowhere in motorsport, actually tires which would be good in dry and good in wet. And once again, we're going to probably see today the advantage of such a solution, because as the rain starts to come on the circuit, it's quite important for us at Michelin not to have to worry about the tire choice. It's going to work either way. So that has been quite a great adventure for us to come with that idea and just to try to improve it, pushing the boundaries of dry grip and wet grip, all trying also to provide with a great handling and range autonomy for the car.
And of course, ultimately, the reason behind that is the sustainability element, so that we can reduce the number of tyres used up and down the paddock. Talk to us as well, Sunday is going to be your 100th race in Formula E. What are you going to do to celebrate?
Well, we're going to get a glass of champagne, because the only thing we know is we're probably going to get champion once again. And actually, it's been a very great journey. 8 years, 8 years of fulfillment, coming back with innovation. We have probably introduced 3 different generations of tires, all better in performance, better in efficiency, better in limiting the number of tires, what you said. And for us, that exactly is the concept of the championship, help us to push the limit and to show what we can do at Michelin, which is innovate and use the motorsport to do it. So I think it's going to be worth, trying to celebrate it, because that's the end of the cycle. But I think we can be very proud of what we've accomplished, thanks to Formula E and thanks to the team.
Brilliant. Well, huge thank you to the team as well, and enjoy the race weekend. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Well, the cars are heading out on qualifying Group B. The rain is coming down. I think we've just heard a little bit of rumble of a thunder, and you can see how damp and slippery it is out there. So this is going to be treacherous with a capital T.
Especially in the stadium section with that new tarmac. It's lovely and smooth. It's pretty slippery.
But same for everyone.
Oh yeah, that's helpful, isn't it? If you're a driver, that's what my engineer would say. Oh, same for everybody. Yeah, thanks. You hear them spinning up the tyres.
Someone's just clipped, I think, the exit of the wall here on that first outlap, because there was some debris flying around. Nick de Vries, reigning champion, outgoing champion, but Evans and Verne are the big ones here. I mean, less so Verne. If Verne doesn't get pole today, he's out of championship contention. That's Norman Nato in the other Jaguar, in the number 10. Askew's had his lap times deleted for not respecting the minimum pit stop time, which is what Lucas de Grassi had a few races ago in New York City. But there you can see the rain is here. So,
reigning champion in the rain.
Very good.
Thank you.
Here he comes then. And are these first laps going to be the quickest? You can see it's not torrential or anything like that, but it is just rain.
Just enough to slick up the surface of the track.
So, there's Jean-Eric Verne. Is Evans at the back of the queue, I think? Yes, he is. So we'll keep an eye out on Verne. We'll keep an eye out on Evans as well. All about being in the top 4 as Evans comes into the first corner, followed by Cassidy, followed by the Jaguar across the line of Norman Nato. That is Lucas de Grassi in the Venturi. That is the Porsche of Pascal Wehrlein. But this is the DS Techeetah of Jean-Eric Verne, just crawling around the circuit. So really, really tricky stuff for Verne. Little slide as he comes into the stadium section. Now, this is going to be slow, but it's how slow is he compared to everybody else, basically?
Absolutely right. It's all relative, isn't it? You've got to be, as you said, Jack, in the top 4. That's all that counts here. And everybody's just going to be out there trying their best to keep the car between the walls while still going as quickly as possible. Watch out for Alexander Sims in the Mahindra. He's been really good in the wet throughout his career in Formula E.
Had an excellent qualifying in Rome last season. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne. First sector-wise, it is Wehrlein who's quicker than everyone else by a second. Everyone else is doing a low 32 seconds first sector. And, no, apologies. He is quicker, but only by a couple of tenths. Misread that. But Verne has done a quick middle sector, but it's Wehrlein who's quickest in sector 1. Now coming down into turn 20, a bit wide on the concretey stuff.
I don't think he didn't get on the throttle till almost corner exit, because he was trying to save his life, save the car, trying to keep it out of the wall on corner exit.
Verne's middle sector is good. He's about 7 tenths quicker than de Vries, 6 tenths quicker than Wehrlein in sector 2. So these lap times are going to be a jumble. There goes Verne, 2 seconds quicker than Nick de Vries. Cassidy goes second, a second away from Verne. Norman Nato in the Jaguar goes third. De Grassi now goes fastest, 7 tenths quicker than Verne. The Porsche comes through of Wehrlein, slots into second place. Here's Mitch Evans. After the middle sector, Evans is 6 tenths away. It could be enough to put him into the top 4, but it's going to be tight. Here comes the Jaguar driver. 4th, right on the bubble at the moment for Mitch Evans. Ticktum 9th. Gunter De Vries is improving on his second lap. Verne is half a second up after the first sector. So maybe the rain eases a little bit, or you find where the grip is a little more.
Yeah, I think you're finding the grip. You're realising how to put the throttle down. It's one thing being all spectacular and sideways. It's not fast. You've got to keep the car going straight, going forwards.
Okay, big lap times incoming now, because Wehrlein is 6 tenths up in the first sector. De Vries, who we're watching, is 2 tenths up in the first sector on Lucas de Grassi's lap time, which is currently a 32.3. Here they come, out of, in towards turn 20.
And at what point is it so wet that they start going offline? That's the next thing that happens when you start getting some real sort of puddles forming. You go offline, getting away from the rubber that was laid down earlier, because that's where most of the grip will be.
De Grassi is 2 seconds away, so he's not improving. Wehrlein is. This is going to be a big lap from Wehrlein. De Vries goes up into quickest, and then he is immediately beaten by Jean-Eric Verne. Cassidy comes through, 5th place for him. All of a sudden, Evans is down to 7th place because his teammate Norman Nato jumps up into 4th spot, who's in this weekend replacing Sam Bird. Wehrlein to the top of the times. The Mahindras go 3rd for Alexander Sims, and then 3rd for Oliver Rowland. Big lap here from Evans. What does he do? 2nd place. Evans in for the moment. Up into 2nd place. Verne 3rd, Rowland 4th.
Red flag.
There's a red flag.
Someone's hit the wall. Oh, yeah.
Sims is in the barriers.
And we heard that from the commentary booth. It's
actually right behind us, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, no, the question is, has he damaged the suspension?
He might have got away with that, Alexander Sims. Red flag is out. The clock stops. Everybody got a lap time in, so it's good that he's managed to get going again, Sims.
If we can see the onboard, we'll be able to see the steering straight, and that'll give us some idea if there's any damage. You see there's plenty of bodywork damage, but that is not unusual. Looks like it's towing in a bit on the left front. Looks a bit of damage.
De Grassi all of a sudden shuffled down to 7th place in all of that. So he was quickest. Then everybody else did a second lap, and he didn't. And he dropped down the order. Here's a look at Alexander Sims.
Oh yeah, that's damaged the suspension. Definitely would have damaged the steering arms. Hopefully Alexander Sims got his hands off the wheel so it didn't damage his wrists. As the wheel torques round, it can really hurt. Oh, he lost the back on the way in. Overcorrected into the wall.
Crunch. So, saying the back just got away from him on the radio, as we saw fairly self-evidently for Alexander Sims. So red flag is out. Shouldn't be too long a red flag. The marshals will get to work and just clear away a bit of the debris, and maybe that's it, because the impact absorbing barrier didn't get too much of a hit, I don't think. Ian James looking at his driver in 6th place, but Evans is through at the moment. And I spoke to him before the session after FP2, and he said, "This hasn't gone well this morning. I'm not happy with the car."
Oh, his body language was not usual Mitch Evans. He's up for a fight normally, and he just looked like he kind of owes a bit much, but he clearly has turned it around. Good on him. You don't get into position that Mitch Evans is in, getting a factory drive with Jaguar in Formula E without having a really deep well of just being able to just absolutely continually motivate yourself. And he's done it. You see him warming the tyres up. I think he's maybe trying to clean the tyres off. See the spots of rain in the visor. If it was me, I'd probably go into a lighter visor now, get rid of some of that so you can actually see through a bit more as the rain comes down. Also, you want to put some visor with some rain X or whatever type thing, so that the rain actually beats off.
6.5 minutes to go.
You see Nick de Vries with this. He's got a clear visor on.
We're in a very seemingly consistent rain period. It's just sort of It's like England, like it's just raining a bit.
I'd be happy with this for the rest of the day. Yeah, we couldn't go racing in this.
Whereas so often with storms, it's suddenly, because like in New York, it wasn't just rain the whole time, it was dry and then it absolutely bucketed it down, whereas this is just a rainy day now that it's turned into. We'll see whether it gets any more dramatic as the day goes on.
The hard thing in New York was that obviously a lot of rain, a big storm, but the tyres and the cars had done 3/4 of a race, so the tread had worn down to almost nothing, and the puddles were deeper than the tread was.
It's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. We're going to try to open up here in about 30 seconds.
So Scott Elkins saying they're going to be getting going again in 30 seconds. He's the man down in the bottom right.
The race director.
Yep. And so that'll be the teams getting ready to go. But before the session gets back underway, let's head down to the pit lane and Nikki Shields.
Well, as you can imagine, the atmosphere down here in the Mercedes EQ garage is rather intense. Ian James clearly looking at the timings, really just to see where Mitch Evans, one of the biggest rivals for Stoffel Vandoorne, is going to finish in this qualifying session. If we look at the championship computations, it is quite simple. Stoffel Vandoorne just needs to outperform Mitch Evans and Edo Mortara today, and he will wrap up the championship today. However, if we want the title decider to go down to tomorrow, then either Mitch Evans must outperform and outscore Stoffel Vandoorne by 7 points. That's a magic number. Edo Mortara has got to outperform Stoffel Vandoorne by 12 points. So they are your magic numbers to keep an eye on. Cars are now back on track.
Certainly are. Thank you, Nikki. 6 minutes to go. Got that turned around nice and quickly, that red flag period. So Sims is in the pits. De Vries is ahead of Evans on track here. Evans is second quickest at the moment, but Evans could back off because he's got he's got Nato behind him, his teammate. But it's interesting that Evans is choosing to run so close to Nick De Vries as they come into the final couple of corners. And De Vries moves out of the way and Evans goes through. So Evans wants some clear track, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. He's sort of, it's really, looking on the outside of 20, 21 now, it's puddles are starting to form in that part of the circuit. It's a good measure for the driver and for us how much grip is available, so how much the front tyres lock up. We haven't seen any locking there. The drivers kind of take a slightly different line through the last corner, turn 22, to prepare for maximum speed across the start line to start the lap.
Right, less than 5 minutes to go. Slippery conditions here in South Korea. Mitch Evans, second in the championship. Jean-Eric Verne, fourth in the championship. They need to advance through to the Duels. They need to be in the top 4 to keep their title hopes alive. Out into the stadium comes Mitch Evans.
Gotta say that Jaguar's done a great job of putting the power down. You hear everybody else slide around, wheel spin.
And it's the fastest first sector of anyone. Over a 10th up on Pascal Wehrlein there for Evans. So maybe the track is getting a little better. De Vries has done a personal best too in the Mercedes EQ. But that's a good first sector from Evans.
And the car looked good, it sounded good. There wasn't any of those sort of spikes of power as it went down. You can see a bit of spray. It's come through 16, 17 and 18.
De Vries is improving, de Grassi's improving, but they're all 3/10 slower than Mitch Evans was in that first sector. Now he comes into turn 19, exits that, and he's now lost a bit of time in the middle sector. He's only 500ths away from Pascal Wehrlein, but it's whether anyone else can improve. Rowland has done a good first sector. Evans now down to the final corner at turn 22.
Carrying a lot of speed through 20 and 21. Understeering as he comes to the line. Where does this put him?
He comes across the line and remains second, but does improve his lap time. Was that Evans going off at turn 1?
Certainly sounded like it.
Big lock up from someone. Nato's got up into 7th place, but de Grassi's improving. And Cassidy now comes across the line. Evans did have a spin down at the first corner, but he's managed to keep going. Rowland is 200ths up after the middle sector, so he's doing a good lap. De Grassi only gets him into 6th place, and now he goes straight on at the first corner as well. Tictum goes up into 9th position. Oliver Rowland is going to come through the final couple of corners. Here's a look at what happened to Evans down into the first corner. Onto the brakes. Hey, there it goes.
Oh, yeah, just lost the rear. Nice recovery.
Norman Natto's, but that's the problem here for Evans, is that ruined his next lap, and his teammate Norman Natto is 2 tenths up on this next lap. Wehrlein has just done a good lap too. Oliver Rowland is now at the top of the times in the Mahindra. So Rowland, Wehrlein, Evans and Verne, the top 4 at the moment. Here comes Natto. Through the right-hander of turn 19. Then we'll get a middle sector split for the Jaguar driver. And the Frenchman is...
He's still
up.
Yeah, still a 10th and a half up. Great stuff from Norman Natto.
De Vries has done a quick middle sector. There is Evans, but he is going to get another lap in. Maybe 2, to be honest, Evans, if they can keep pushing, because they can just keep going. They're running at 220 kilowatts. They can just keep going around.
Yeah, it will very much depend on the tyre pressure.
Natto.
If the tyres go over temperature and over pressure.
Natto to first. Cassidy through, and he goes up.
And Verne's on a lap.
Place. Jean-Eric Verne is 2 tenths up on Natto after the middle sector. Here comes the DS Techeetah into the final corner.
And this would knock Evans out of contention for the Duels.
It certainly would. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne. He goes quickest. Evans is 2 tenths up though in sector 1 on Jean-Eric Verne's lap time. So Evans is flying. Verne quickest, Natto, Rowland and Wehrlein the top 4 at the moment. But this is the pressure. It feels like the track's getting better, or the drivers are getting more used to it, but the lap times are coming down. Wehrlein is quicker than Evans in sector 1. This is an intense qualifying session. How brave are you through the right-hander of turn 18? Then into 19. Verne improves in his first sector, but he's not near Evans. Evans is a 10th away after the middle sector.
That would still put him second, which might be enough.
Rowland is half a second up in sector 1, but Evans will get another lap after this as well. He can go again if the track is continuing to improve, Mitch Evans.
You've got to keep pushing it. But again, are the tyres going off? Are the pressures, are the temperatures going too high? You just got to keep pushing, though, if you're Mitch Evans.
Evans goes 3rd. It's not a huge improvement. De Vries only goes 8th quickest. This is Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche. He's 3 tenths up on the middle, after the middle sector on Jean-Eric Verne. Verne's lost a couple of tenths in the middle sector. Here comes Wehrlein, goes quickest, a 30.321. Checkered flag is out. Does he get it? No. De Grassi goes 2nd, gets the checkered flag. Evans out at the moment, but he's on a lap. He's on a lap, Mitch Evans. And he's up in sector 1. Rowland is going to go near the top here. The Mahindra driver takes the checkered flag, and it's second
for Rowland.
Someone's
crashed in turn 1. I'm sure there's somebody down the escape road 1. Yep. Max Gunter in the Nissan.
But what is Evans doing in the middle sector? He's a 10th up at the moment. He's out as it stands, but he's working his way now out of the stadium section and down towards turn 19. Here comes the Jaguar man. Big pressure on him now, because this would push Verne out. It's Evans or Verne. Both of them won't make it through.
2 tenths off right now, but that's enough to get him up to P2.
Needs to be a big final sector here for Mitch Evans. Down towards the final corner at turn 22. No one else is doing anything particularly notable. Wehrlein is on a good lap. Can Evans get into the top 4? Will it be Evans or Verne advancing through to the Duels? Across the line, it's Evans!
0.05 of a second.
That should be enough for Evans. James Barkley saying wait for everyone to come across the line. Natto goes into 6th place, and that is everyone. Evans is into the Duels. Verne will not be a 3-time world champion. He is now out of contention. Verne out of contention. Evans makes it through. What happened to Evans' time?
Car 9 on minimum pit stop time.
Minimum pit stop time. Jaguar. A Jaguar knocked out. A Jaguar and Evans eliminated. Is Verne getting a reprieve? They have to have a minimum pit stop time when they come in between their first 2 runs to change tyres, so that it doesn't become, a racing pit stop and it's all a bit of a rush and it becomes, like a race pit stop. What has happened here at Jaguar?
It's under investigation. It's not a done deal yet. So, but they've taken the time away.
They've taken the time away for Evans, and that would put him on the 6th row of the grid.
But surely you would wait until the investigation was complete before taking the time away.
I guess it's a pretty binary thing, isn't it? It's either you did the time or you didn't do the time.
Absolutely, but it still says under investigation.
Yeah.
So, oh.
Wow.
The drama.
Here's a look at Nick Cassidy getting up to no good. Oh.
Wow. Okay.
He was meant to turn right there.
It's up at turn 20, 21, the double apex right.
So Cassidy straight on and into the barriers. There's a look at it from the back view.
Sorry, turn 19. You seem just locking up over that, over the crosswalk, and then it goes. Oh, we're going to see it on board. Say bye-bye to this camera.
Oh, bye.
Oh. I wonder how many of those cameras we've gone through in 8 seasons of Formula E.
Wow, Mitch Evans being pushed back into the garage now, and there will be Evans shaking his head. I mean, do you think there's any... I mean, Evans did the job. I wonder if there's any kind of... It's still under investigation, we believe. So Evans is sitting in the car, and race control have confirmed that it's still under investigation. So I do concur that why would they remove the lap time if it was only under investigation? But nevertheless, Evans currently 6th, and I wonder if this was the session with the red flag. So whether that changed things because everyone came into the pits when the red flag was out, and maybe that put minimum pit stop time out the window, or I don't know. De Vries is out, whatever happens.
Yep.
No grip. My Flemish, which I think is what they're speaking, is not strong.
I wonder how Albert Lau, his engineer's Flemish is.
So, the Duels will start in 3 minutes' time. But seeing that realization from inside the Jaguar garage when they saw the lap time disappear was quite something. Right. Mitch Evans then into the pits. And this is what's under investigation, basically, is that they didn't respect the minimum pit stop time. Rolled him back in to the
his engineer would
garage.
Start a stopwatch.
Yeah. Oh, and then is this it? And then we just send him straight back out, do we?
Oh. Depends when they start it, when the car gets pulled back into the garage or when the car is actually stopped.
Yeah, so had he only just got back, and I think that's the red flag resumption.
And if that is, then he's probably gone slowly because it's a red flag.
It's a really, really tricky one. We'll keep you up to date with everything that happens, but Evans, no further action after investigation. Evans is through. Evans is into the next part of qualifying and into the qualifying duels. Goodness me, I must have been red flag related. It must have been red flag related. Evans is 4th. He is into the duels. Goodness me.
All right, he's still alive.
Wow. No further action for Mitch Evans after investigation.
This is the point where they have to focus now on the duels.
So Evans then will be getting to head back out onto the circuit in the qualifying duels, which will be getting underway in a couple of minutes' time. And now DS Techeetah, that to me sounded like Thomas Chevauchet saying they got an advantage by just coming in and going straight back out, and that isn't fair. So I wonder if this will run and run. Maybe Techeetah reported.
Not
Jaguar.
Beyond the realms of possibility.
I don't know.
Yeah. All to play for that man there. Stoffel Van Dorn, championship leader, trying to be serene and go about his work.
So Van Dorn will be going through to the Duels. We'll
And at this point, he's not thinking about any of the stuff that we're getting excited about.
Just a heads up. We've got a change in plan here. The session's going to start at 23 local time. 23.
Yeah, so Van Dorn, he's just focused on his next lap.
Yeah.
And just getting that job done. He's not seeing the camera beside him, none of that stuff, just full tunnel vision.
So, were they, the Duels were wet, yeah, Duels were wetter in New York, weren't they? They were wet in New York.
And it's still raining, but it's not tipping it down, which is a technical term.
But now it kind of doesn't matter, because you're just two cars on the track at the same time. It's not about, oh, being the last to get your lap in, or blah, 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 blah. But it's just the same for both.
What it does mean is I think the track is usable. We can continue to push. See, Edo Mortara, eyes closed, focusing on what he's about to do. Different helmet than he used this morning.
Oh, yeah. Right. Qualifying Group B, Wehrlein, Rowland, Grassi and Evans advancing through to the Duels. Then it'll be Vern on the 5th row of the grid, no longer in title contention. It'll be Evans versus Mortara in the first quarterfinal. Grassi versus Dennis in the second quarterfinal. Sete Camera Rowland in the third quarterfinal. And Van Dorn versus Wehrlein in the fourth quarterfinal. So that's how the duels will work out. And Evans is going to be in the first duel up against Mortara. I've only just clocked that. It's second versus third in the first quarterfinal. Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing up against Eduardo Mortara for Rocket Venturi Racing. And the winner of this duel is going to be the one that has the best chance at stopping Stoffel Van Dorn.
I like going flat out. The new qualifying format is really exciting. Let's see who comes out on top.
I'm fast because I'm the one doing the least mistakes.
Goodness me. What a fight this is going to be between Evans and Mortara. And wow.
5 points between these guys in the championship.
Yeah. And this could be the difference between pole and
being out of championship.
8th on the grid.
Yeah, and being out of championship contention.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've seen how tricky it is in these damp, wet conditions. So the race this afternoon is, oh my word, there's a lot of spray there. The race this afternoon is far from a foregone conclusion. You start up front, you're going to finish up front.
Presumably you're pushing on your outlap now for the duels.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely pushing. You're trying to find the limit of grip and try and get the heat, as much heat as possible into the tyre. Yeah, look, I mean, you can see that Mortara just turns the wheel. There's no feedback at all. There's no grip to lean against.
So this is the stadium section for Mitch Evans.
And this is the section and the very low grip that the Jaguar looked quite exceptional in group qualifying. Although I would say there's more rain here now, there's more puddles. The puddles are deeper than they were during the group qualifying section. But also, Evans has got knowledge of the track in these conditions, not in these conditions, because that's a lot more spray, but his knowledge is more current than Mortara's from Group 1.
Mortara then making his way around the circuit, and it's not quite in New York, because New York, the first group was dry and then the second group was damp, so it was a real kind of big difference. Whereas here, they both sort of had an outlap. The rain's coming down a bit more there, isn't it? Yes. As Evans comes down into the final corner. So Mitch Evans starting his lap now. It's he or Eduardo Mortara that will be on the front 2 rows of the grid with the best chance of stopping Stoffel. And we'll do our best to see if Evans' lap looks good or not, but there's just no way of knowing until the stopwatch comes out. Here's Mortara starting his lap now. The quickest of these 2 laps between the 2 of them will be the driver that advances through to the semi-finals. Keep an eye on the tower on the left-hand side. That'll show you who's ahead. It's Evans by more than 2 tenths at the start, but this is the sort of conditions where it could ebb and flow
massively.
Grows a little bit.
And again, this is a part of the lap that Evans was so good at just a couple of minutes ago in group qualifying. So let's see if he can continue it. And the puddles are much bigger. Potential for aquaplaning over the bumps as Evans goes nearly 7/10 ahead through this section.
Evans is flying at the moment in this first third of the lap.
But it's so easy to make a mistake in these conditions, even just to get to the end of the lap without crashing the car. It's not easy.
Mortara.
Guys, heads up, the cars at the pit exit are not.
Evans now down into the right-hander. The gap is still almost 7/10 of a second. A little bit of a twitch as he comes through turn 20.
Multiple surfaces in 20 and 21, Jack, and you could see there wasn't a lot of grip there.
Now onto Olympic Way, into the final corner at turn 22. The gap is now a second. This looks like it's going to be Evans booking himself a place in the semi-final with a 1 minute 31.293. Here comes Mortara. He's onto Olympic Way now, but the Venturi that had looked so strong in practice earlier on has been scuppered a little by the weather. You can hear the car sliding as he comes across the line and ends up 1.1 seconds down. It's a 32.442 and rapturous applause in the Jaguar garage as Evans advances. Venturi out. And Eduardo Mortara making it through to the Duels for the first time in 4 races, to be fair, but it will be at best 5th on the grid.
And you can hear the rain now hitting the cover over the camera.
Lucas Di Grassi for Rocket Venturi up against Jake Dennis for Avalanche Andretti in the second quarter-final. They've faced each other once already this year, and that was in the final in London last time out, where Dennis came out on top and with pole position. Dennis looking to equal the record of Alexander Sims and Antonio Felix da Costa for 3 Formula E pole positions in a row. Dennis versus Di Grassi.
Got to say, Dennis isn't maybe has got a disadvantage here. His track was nowhere near these type of conditions when he last drove it. Lucas Di Grassi, certainly not the case.
There is the Andretti garage with Roger Griffiths watching the battle unfold. A repeat of the final from London. Pole position not up for grabs, but a place in the semi-final is. Here we go. We've synced them up. And it's Di Grassi on the left, Dennis on the right. Oh, Dennis quite wide at turn 2, and already Di Grassi's got a quarter of a second. Right-hander at 4 by the baseball stadium. Now into the garden chicane.
And obviously you don't want to overdo it. It's so easy just to overdrive and put the car in.
Whoa,
look
Dennis!
Look at the massive opposite lock moments for Jake Dennis. And you can see he's got the car sideways. There's just no grip, and he's half a second down, a third of the way into the lap.
The rear tyres just lit up there for Jake Dennis. Look how far Di Grassi is. He's under the tunnel now. Dennis under the tunnel now. Again, big squeal of wheel spin. Through the left-hander at turn 16 and out onto the backstretch. 7/10 of a second is the advantage. It's going to take an error here from Di Grassi, I think, for Dennis to get back into this.
That's easily done in these conditions.
Both of them neat and tidy through the right-hander. Dennis catches by a couple of tenths of a second. 2 more corners to go. Turn 20. Oh, Di Grassi maybe in a little bit hot, but the gap is still 6/10 of a second. Final corner coming up.
Trying to brake on the limit, but don't head down the escape road to your left. All the hard work is done from Lucas Di Grassi.
Di Grassi across the line, and Di Grassi is into the semi-finals. He will face Evans. Dennis does a 32.424, which is slightly quicker than Mortara. Slightly quicker than Eduardo Mortara. So Dennis will be ahead of Mortara on the grid. And Evans will face Di Grassi in the semi-final. Next up, quarter-final number 3. Sergio Sede Camera for the Dragon Penske Autosport team up against Oliver Rowland for Mahindra Racing. Now this for Rowland is he was in the Duels in both of the first 2 races in Diriyah. Hasn't been back since. Now here he is facing Sergio Sede Camera, who has been in the duels in London and in New York.
Sergio City Camera missed turn 2021, just trying to find the grip, find the limit again, because when he drove, he was in Group 1. Rowland has been a qualifying machine at times through his Formula E career. But these are two guys that definitely flirt with the edge of disaster, and that's a bit closer today than in normal under these conditions. So fasten your seatbelts for this one.
Yeah, so true. Right. Yeah, probably the two most spectacular drivers on the grid. Incoming in wet conditions in South Korea. Here comes Rowland into turn 1. Swings it left into 2. Who was quicker through that first complex of corners? It's Rowland by almost half a second. Seti Camera coming into the stadium. Oi, chirp, chirp.
Yeah, Seti Camera back to the throttle now. He looks like he's almost slowed down a bit. He's just trying to feel the grip out, but that gap is continuing to grow. 7/10 already. Seti Camera just finding no grip out there, and again, we're seeing the advantage of the guys who went in Group 2.
Something weird there with Seti Camera, because he was so ginger, and the gap's gone up to 2.5 seconds. I wonder if that was a mechanical issue or something, or electrical issue for Seti Camera. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think Seti Camera's broken down.
Turn 13, just the last of the right-handers in the stadium, and he's stopped.
It looked like he was being rather cautious, didn't it?
Yeah.
But looks as though he has broken down. So Rowland now just needs to back off and bring it back.
Yeah, do not crash under these circumstances. That would not go down well. I might have done that once. At least once in my career.
What, once the race had finished?
No, I've definitely crashed once the race was finished. I flew through the air in Kentucky once the race was finished, but that's a different story. Moving on anyway. This is
Kentucky Fried Dario.
Yeah, look how much rain there is.
Here comes Rowland down into the final corner at turn 22, and this will be his first semi-final appearance of the season for Oliver Rowland. Across the line he comes. And through he goes. A 1:32.590, and Seti Camera has got going again at least, but I don't think he's going to way. Here he goes, out of the wall somehow.
Don't bin it when you're 35 seconds down. That wouldn't go down well either.
So Seti Camera, in fact, he's just going to come back into the pits.
Yeah, probably safer.
But that was quite the moment from Seti Camera. I thought he was in the barriers, but
I bet he did too.
Yeah. Kept it all together, the Brazilian, broadly speaking, broadsidely speaking. And it is Rowland who advances through to the semi-final. Now, a 1:32.590 for Rowland. Seti Camera not setting a lap time. So he will be, most likely, 8th on the grid. Steelbag Gill watches his driver advance through to the semi-final. You can see the final quarter-final duel now. Stoffel Vandoorne versus Pascal Wehrlein. They've faced each other twice before, and Wehrlein has had the advantage on both occasions. This is, if Vandoorne doesn't do well here, and Evans is through to the final, suddenly Evans is on the front row, Vandoorne's back in 7th or 8th on the grid.
Big snap of oversteer as Vandoorne went onto that surface change in turn 7, but
he's not started his lap.
Yeah. But he's like, he was in Group 1. He's thinking, where's the grip? What's going on here? Giving it a load of throttle, and now he's got grip. Okay, I know how much grip is in the stadium section. Pascal Wehrlein looking a lot more happy, a lot more comfortable with what he's doing. Big snap out from the Porsche there.
Coming through the stadium. They're on their out laps at the moment.
I'm glad it wasn't raining when I was out earlier doing the Gen 2 sighting laps.
Here's a look at Vandoorne. Real wiggle. Ian James, team principal. Vandoorne just still trying to find where the grip is out there. You can see
hasn't found it, I would say.
You can see it's still only raining. You know what I mean? It's not torrential.
That's easy for us sitting in the commentary booth, Jack.
I know. Here comes Vandoorne then out of the final corner. Championship leader by 36 points ahead of Mitch Evans. Can he get into the semi-finals against a Porsche that has looked quick this weekend in Pascal Wehrlein? Through turns 2 and 3. Gets on the power, look neat and tidy. Porsche running a special livery this weekend to celebrate the launch of a new tag oil watch. And Wehrlein's 2 tenths up on Stoffel Vandoorne.
Surprised at how much wheel spin that Mercedes has got. The teams have got systems in the car to help limit wheel spin, shall we call it. But that Mercedes just lighting the rear tyres up every time Stoffel Vandoorne touches the throttle pedal.
Vandoorne closing the gap a little bit.
Listen how smoothly he's on the throttle when he gets to the throttle.
Oh, look at this from Wehrlein. He's almost half a second up on Vandoorne.
Oh, a bit of a wiggle from Wehrlein though. Comes through 13. And then as soon as you get up this ramp, the grip level changes. Now you're back onto the city streets. You're not going to have a lot more grip, but you're going to have some more.
8 tenths now, the gap between Wehrlein and Vandoorne. This is a really strong performance from the Porsche driver, and Vandoorne is slipping away.
Big snap though, over Steer, hit the wall.
Wehrlein's in the wall, even though he had an 8/10 of a second advantage. Is that going to bring it down a lot? Vandoorne wrestling the car. Vandoorne is almost in the wall. The gap between them still 9/10 of a second at the moment. Vandoorne into the final corner. Gets under the brakes, into the right-hander. He only gained 2/10 of a second in that sequence of corners. Vandoorne does a 1:35.401. Track conditions are worse. It's going to be 7th on the grid for Stoffel Vandoorne. Across the line comes Wehrlein. And it is 7th on the grid for Stoffel Vandoorne.
But only 2.8 of a second.
So 5th on the grid will be Jake Dennis. 6th, Eduardo Mortara. 7th, Stoffel Vandoorne. 8th, Sergio Sette Camara. So Evans is into the semi-finals, Vandoorne isn't. They could still be starting 4th and 7th on the grid, but Evans will be starting ahead of Vandoorne on the grid come the race later on today. And Evans will know that. Look at this from Pascal Wehrlein. Coming through the quick right-hander at turn 18. Oh, it went on the way in, and then little bump.
I did a good job of hitting it square, arrested the slide, got back on the throttle. It's consistently raining now, shall we say. Yeah. You can see the puddles getting deeper. Nicely done, Pascal.
That lap time from Vandoorne and Wehrlein was 3 seconds slower than the previous 3 duels. So, semi-finals coming up in a few moments' time here from Seoul. Evans beat Eduardo Mortara in the first quarter-final. Grassi beat Dennis. Rowland beat Sette Camara. Wehrlein beat Vandoorne. Semi-finals coming up in just a few moments' time. Three points on offer as well. If Evans can take pole position, then suddenly the gap comes down to 33 points, and it's still tough. Don't get me wrong, but
you just read my mind, Jack.
Yeah.
You know, then if Evans can win the race, Stoffel Vandoorne not score any points, we've got a real fight in our hands tomorrow. But that's what the Mercedes EQ team and what Stoffel Vandoorne will be pushing so hard to avoid this afternoon. Just get some points, and that really puts the pressure on the Jaguar team and Mitch Evans.
There you can see the rain continuing to come down. Well, let's check in with some of the drivers, shall we? Nikki Shields.
Well, Eduardo Mortara, congratulations, making it through to the qualies. Not quite enough pace to get into the semis, but talk about the conditions out there. It looks pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, not the pace, but we didn't have an entire session to train like the second group. Fortunately, sometimes, luck needs to be a little bit on your side. We were quickest on the first group, but that was on dry conditions, and then we had to discover the track on wet during our duel, as the other group were doing an entire session under the weather. So a little bit unlucky there, but nevertheless there is an entire race to do, and hopefully we can have a good pace.
So what do you think is realistic? What's the objective for the race now?
I've got no idea. Firstly, we need to see a little bit where we are going to start. So this is going to depend a little bit on the performance of the others. And then from there, we are going to try to do our best.
All right. Well, I know you've been putting in a lot of extra preparation, so good luck for the race. Thanks, Eduardo Mortara.
So Mortara there, Dario, saying the second group had a lot more time to practice. These drivers were both in Group B, de Grassi and Evans.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, that's what I was saying during those sessions. They just had a more current knowledge of the grip level of the track. Now everybody knows what it's like. They've all driven in the wet, fully wet conditions. So let's see who can make the best job of it. De Grassi against Evans. This is a tough one to call. I mean, let's be honest, de Grassi. Evans needs to make this happen to keep himself in championship contention, to keep the pressure on Stoffel van Dorn. He needs to win this duel, get in the final, win that one.
De Grassi is the race winner from the last race in London. And he's in this black Rocket Venturi. Looking for, he qualified second, made it into the final in that second race in London 2 weeks ago. Can he do the same again today? Or can Evans get up to starting towards the front of the grid, on the front row?
Oh, a snap of oversteer from Evans.
He's qualified on the front row once this season. That was his pole in Monaco. The only time he's made it through to the final. In fact, it's going to be tough.
Well, no time like the present.
Evans versus de Grassi in the semi-final coming up. Evans is actually in the 14 races so far this season. Evans has only been in the duels 5 times. Compare that to Van Dorn 11 times in the 14 races, but yet here he is still in championship contention. Across the line they come, down towards the first corner. Jaguar versus Venturi, and we are going with the split.
Just watch how busy the driver's hands are as they fight the oversteer.
Oh, big first few corners from de Grassi, 3.5 tenths up.
That's mighty, and that's very difficult for Mitch Evans to claw back that kind of time. It means he's got to take more and more risk.
Into the stadium. Oh, big opposite lock from de Grassi.
And a similar situation for Evans. Oh, Evans is catching a ton. He's so quick through the stadium section in the wet.
Less than 2 tenths between them. Oh, that's a big moment again for Evans coming into 13.
And he actually used that oversteer though to help him turn the car in. A bit of a Scandinavian flick going on to turn 13. Great stuff for both drivers.
Now we're into turn 16 and de Grassi has got a 4-tenth margin. Oh, another big moment for Evans.
And we saw Evans have a big moment through turn 18 as he approaches now earlier on his warm-up lap. Through there easily though.
Oh, de Grassi, big moment on the brakes. And has he gone in too deep? He still gets it stopped. But this makes it pretty close between them. 4 tenths now.
De Grassi was mighty on the brakes. Evans has missed 2021 though. I just think the grip level is so low there as they approach on all those different surfaces.
The gap goes up a little more, almost half a second. De Grassi, is he going to book himself a place? Oh, look how much Evans has closed in. Evans has a moment in the final corner. It's going to be so close between them. Who's through to the final? It's de Grassi. Lucas de Grassi into the final for the second race in a row for the Rocket Venturi team.
Superb performance by both drivers, just keeping the car on the track first of all. Things just got a bit more difficult for Mitch Evans.
Well, it's still the second row of the grid. Stoffel van Dorn will be starting 7th on the grid. So it'll depend on Rowland and Wehrlein, the speed of the loser in that one, which is coming up now. Pascal Wehrlein in the Tag Heuer Porsche versus Oliver Rowland for Mahindra Racing. Wehrlein has had a pole this season in Mexico City. He's been into the final twice. This is Rowland's first appearance in the semi-finals and his first appearance in the duels since January in Diriyah, the opening race of the season. We saw Wehrlein have a couple of good efforts at getting in the wall in his first run.
Just watching the line he takes into turn 2021, double apex right-hander. He actually goes offline, turns in so early to avoid those new pieces of tarmac. Can you see the Porsche snap sideways at almost top speed?
So Wehrlein starts his lap now. 2 and 3. And then heading down towards the right-hander of turn 4. Rowland, meanwhile, is wrestling the car into turn 1. He now doubles back on himself. And there's a 1,000th between them after the first few corners. Remarkable.
That's great stuff.
Is it going to stay that close for the remainder of this duel? Rowland gets ahead. Wehrlein has a twitch.
Yeah, the Mahindra looks very poised in these conditions so far.
Coming through now the stadium section, the long sweepers, and Wehrlein closes the gap a little.
The driver's got such a lot to do with this, the pace of the car, but Oliver Rowland has a moment in 12.
Wehrlein is coming to the corner where he hit the wall earlier on. A lot more conservative through there this time. Now into 19. Wehrlein's got over a 1/10 of a second advantage. 2 corners to go. He's struggling to keep it in a straight line, Wehrlein.
Watch him go offline at this next series of corners. Rowland.
Whoa!
Whoa! Big snap as he hits the painted lines. Great car control, great reactions from Oliver Rowland.
And what's happened to Wehrlein? He's got 0.8 of a second on him, Rowland. Where has that lap time come from in the middle sector? Absolutely huge middle sector from Oliver Rowland. We haven't seen any real errors from Pascal Wehrlein, but he comes across the line to do a 36.5. Rowland is now absolutely flying. Here comes Rowland into the final corner. Is he going to be into the final for the first time? Mahindra through. 1.6 seconds ahead of Wehrlein. Rowland came alive in the second half of that lap. Remarkable, remarkable.
Did Wehrlein make a mistake?
I mean, he was really cautious, wasn't he, into sort of the through those S's out the back.
17, 18, he was a bit cautious, but it looks like possibly a mistake.
So Porsche not through. That means Evans will be 3rd on the grid. Here's a look at this. Love this.
This is brilliant stuff. I mean, look at the car control. Oliver Rowland should be in pole position just because of that.
Let's go again.
From the back. Can't really see it because look at that.
I'm on board.
Watch the hands.
Oh,
in a straight line.
I don't have favourites and stuff, but I just love watching Oliver Rowland drive. He's just such fun. Such fun. So de Grassi and Rowland will be in the final. And Evans will be 3rd on the grid. So that's here's a look at the ladder and where we're at. But Evans, with his lap time of a 35.8, is quicker than Wehrlein's lap time of a 36.5. So Evans will be 3rd on the grid. And I think if you'd have given, especially after free practice, if you'd have offered Evans 3rd on the grid and Van Dorn 7th on the grid, they would have taken it.
Yep, but to do 45 minutes plus a lap in these conditions, Jack, it's going to be tough.
Now,
so easy to make a mistake.
Well, if it finishes how they start, then Evans would keep the championship alive, broadly speaking. But anyway, let's hear from the man at the top of the standings.
Well, Stoffel Vandoorne, obviously there was a lot riding on this qualifying session, starting from P7th. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think we definitely had more in the tank, but I think a little bit unlucky with the weather conditions, because the guys from Group 2, they obviously did the full session in the wet, and then to go against them in the duels is not not an easy task to discover the wet track. So I think ultimately I came closer than than expected, and we'll see what happens. I mean, there's a lot of rain coming down now. Track is getting very slippery, so let's see how that's going to go.
Edin Mortara just 1 place ahead of you.
To be honest, haven't really checked the grid, but we're P7. I think we can race from there if obviously the conditions will allow it.
Thanks very much. Good luck for the race, Stoffel Vandoorne.
Pressure of the duel by completely focusing on achieving the best lap time possible.
Okay, everybody, as a reminder, we're a slight delay here, slight delay, stand by.
It really gives you the chance to explore the limits of these fantastic circuits, and that's why we love it.
So Oliver Rowland getting ready to head out onto the circuit. And these two will be teammates at Mahindra next year, Rowland and de Grassi. Rowland has, I mean, this is the nuts thing. Who has more pole positions in Formula E, Oliver Rowland or Lucas de Grassi?
Yeah, Rowland clearly was a qualifying machine in his rookie year.
4-3. Rowland has 4 poles, de Grassi has 3 poles. And de Grassi's done 90, well, this is his 99th
Yeah, this is it.
attempt.
He is the only driver now in Formula E to have done all the races. Sam Bird had that same stat, but unfortunately broke his hand in London.
And this is Rowland's 55th Formula E race. So Rowland has in the final for the first time. That's Rees, his #1 mechanic, releasing him onto the circuit. And he will head down to the end of the pit lane. De Grassi has won 6 duels, lost 5. Second time in the final for Lucas de Grassi. And he heads out onto the circuit now. The Rocket Venturi driver. There's Rowland getting ready for the green light. There he goes. As he gets his visor up right until the last minute.
Yeah, interesting, because that allows obviously the rain to get between the inside of the visor, and that can create fog and just obscure your vision, and you need to be able to see every single puddle you possibly can.
Board with de Grassi. So, this is going to be fascinating. The 3 points won't really matter to either team. I mean, actually, probably more so for Venturi. It would help them another 3 points in their championship fight. Mahindra are only 9 points behind Nissan in the standings, so it would help them as well. But it's just going to be a head-to-head to see who will get pole position for the Seoul E-Prix later on today. De Grassi looking for his 4th career pole and his first since the end of season 3. He scored 38 podiums in his career, but he's only had 3 pole positions.
That's a phenomenal podium percentage, isn't it? I was looking at that the other day. His racecraft is just fantastic.
1 from 2nd on the grid last time out in London. And these two will be teammates next year, but now they are battling it out for pole position. The Venturi of de Grassi into the first corner.
Neat and tidy so far. I've been trying to avoid puddles if I was him, because again, if the puddle's deeper than the tread of the tyre, the car turns into a surfboard.
Rowland now into turns 2 and 3. We'll get a split here of who is quicker and who is slower. De Grassi is up by over 1/10 of a second. Really wet out there now. Again, the gap remains just over 1/10. Bit of a wiggle from Rowland. De Grassi's into the stadium. Looking quite neat and tidy for de Grassi, but Rowland has got a couple of tenths here. He's found 3 tenths overall.
Big switch around. And we saw Rowland's commitment in the quicker sections on the section now that Lucas de Grassi's on, so let's see if he can keep up that pace and keep the pressure on Lucas de Grassi. De Grassi's got no idea what time Rowland's doing, he just knows he's got to find the limit of the car. Look at the puddles getting deeper with every minute.
Now, this was the second half of the lap where Rowland absolutely blew Wehrlein out of the water, almost literally, and de Grassi is really wrestling it coming into turn 20. Kept it all together, and look, Rowland's done it again. Man's a magician in the middle sector.
Where's the shortcut?
He's 6 tenths quicker than de Grassi in the middle third of the lap. Gets on the power now, down towards the final corner. De Grassi takes the checkered flag. He's now a second down on Oliver Rowland. It's a 36-0. Does Rowland get it stopped? He's fighting it into turn 22.
He didn't get it stopped, I don't think.
He was nowhere near the corner, but he takes pole position. Mahindra and Rowland on pole for Seoul. Dilbach Gill delighted. A 35-4 for Rowland. And, okay, didn't really bother with turn 22, but the middle sector of the lap was an outrage from Rowland.
Another team's a bit looking, what is he doing? What line is he using?
And look at him, delighted, punching the air.
As he should be.
Brilliant job, Rowland. Brilliant job.
Next, next. First last kick.
So great performance from Oliver Rowland. Dilbag Gill congratulating him on the radio. I spoke to Rowland, I think it was London, we were having just a little chinwag about his season. He's like, I've been really rubbish in qualifying, considering qualifying was always a strength. He just hasn't really been hooking it up. But that is what Rowland is capable of. That is why he was such a exciting prospect coming through. And that is why he has secured pole position for round 15 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Another 3 points on the board as well. And Rowland and Mahindra will start on pole position. Again, all in the middle sector. Grassi and Rowland only lost 2/10 by going wide at turn 22. As he now comes back into the pit lane. We'll hear from him and Grassi in a few moments' time. Evans will be third on the grid. Now, let's watch this final again on board. We're head-to-head. Sync them up. Now, Grassi was quicker through here. You can see he is a bit ahead. Big understeer for Rowland. Coming through turn 3. Again, pretty even through turn 4. Now into the chicane. Both fighting on the throttle. Now, this is where Rowland started to find the speed. He's staying a lot more to the left, wasn't he, than Grassi? Through that stadium section. And look how much ahead he is when he hits the curve here at 13. He's got a bit of an advantage now. And then this is where he really stretched his legs. Left-hander of 15. Again, looks similar. Listen to them here through the sweepers. You can see how much Rowland is working, and then look at the apex here. Look how much advantage he has over Grassi. By that point, it's almost all through turns 17 and 18. It's just through those two kinks, he's just unbelievable. And then just when he's got a second advantage over Grassi, Rowland on the right-hand side, he comes down to the final corner, pole position in his side, he does this. Got there in the end, out across the line. Oliver Rowland on pole position. That's what it means for Dilbag Gill. Fifth career pole for Oliver Rowland. And as we were saying, he is a qualifying machine. There aren't that many with more poles than Rowland. Van Doorn's got 7. Bird has 6. Rowland has 5. Grassi second on the grid again, but he won the race from second place last time out, and I think he's probably going to be feeling fairly confident, to be honest, because the Mahindra has traditionally not had super race performance over the course of the season. This is how the grid will line up. Oliver Askew will start at the back after having his lap times deleted. Alexander Sims hit the wall. Andre Lotterer struggled, as did Nick Cassidy, who was another driver who went into the barriers. Oliver Turvey will be 18th on the grid. Max Gunter 17th. Robin Freistan is 16th. Reigning champion Nick De Vries only 15th on the grid for Mercedes in Q. Dan Ticktum doing a good job, actually, to be 13th. And then Da Costa and Norman Nato just missing out on the top 10. In 10th place will be Sebastian Buemi. Jean-Eric Verne is now out of championship contention because he didn't take pole position. Stoffel Van Dorn still leading the championship, but he'll only be 7th on the grid going into this race. Eduardo Mortara needs a bigger result than that, but he is at least ahead of Van Dorn. Wehrlein is 4th on the grid. Mitch Evans starts 3rd, the main rival now to Stoffel Van Dorn in the championship fight. Lucas de Grassi starts 2nd on the grid for the 2nd week in a row, but it's Rowland on pole. The team just saying well done to Rowland, the EDAMS team saying well done to Rowland. Fantastic stuff. Let's go down to Nikki.
Well, let's catch up with one of the championship contenders, Mitch Evans. Mitch, obviously there was a pretty intense moment, whether or not your dual lap was going to be counted or not. What was going through your mind at the time, sitting in the cockpit?
Yeah, I was a bit confused because I was told it was P4, and then I saw on the screen it was P6, and I just was like, okay, guys, what's going on? And then obviously there was some confusion with the red flag and the minimum pit time, so anyway, we'll sort it out in the end. I'll speak to the guys to see what happens. So lucky, I made it through to the duels, had a clean first one. Obviously, Edo had not been in the wet, so I had a bit of advantage. I knew, going up against Lucas would be a tougher task because he was in my group. Yeah, it was just, the conditions are so bad, like a lot of aquaplaning, so a little bit of risk and reward. I almost lost it on the outlap, so it sort of wasn't a great start to the lap, but full credit to Lucas, he did obviously a better job.
And obviously today, you've got to finish 7 points ahead of Stoffel Vandoorne. Is that the target?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hopefully more. We've put ourselves in a good position. I'll probably be P3. A lot can happen from there. So, yeah, obviously the weather's a big question mark at the moment. But yeah, it's been a solid start in terms of qualifying. Today's actually been really tough in terms of overall pace. So hopefully we can tune her up for the race and see what the weather does.
Lovely. All right, thanks very much. Mitch Evans keeping that championship title fight alive.
Lucas de Grassi then will start second on the grid. So Mitch Evans then frustrated with what happened, but then okay in the end because there was some confusion and they got to the bottom of it. And it's going to be a really strong position for Evans to start. A podium is definitely a possibility. Depends what happens with the weather, of course, as well. And there you can see all the traffic out there that is working its way around the Olympic Park. So we are having Oliver Rowland on pole position, but second on the grid will be de Grassi.
Well, Lucas de Grassi, in your 99th Formula E race, starting from the front row of the grid, is a nice way to start.
Yeah, definitely a good qualifying. It was very, very tricky because it started to rain in our group. And the track kind of got worse and worse and worse as the qualifying progressed. And I was out of the duels, managed to put a lap and go through. And then after, we were pretty quick. Apart from the duel with Rowland, I think the Mahindras were really definitely very good in this very wet condition, and we could not fight him.
And this is an absolutely, probably the biggest weekend for Rocket Venturi. 36 points off the team's championship. So you're setting yourself up for into a good position. Yeah,
that's the main thing for me this weekend. Of course, I have two personal goals. The first one is to get the team as high as we can on the championship standings. We are currently second. And second, for me to get my 1,000 points in Formula E, which is will be a very good way to finish these 8 seasons together.
That would be a very nice way to finish indeed. Well, Lucas de Grassi, all the best for that. Thank you.
So that is Lucas de Grassi, who will start in second on the grid then. And it was a really good drive from de Grassi, as he said, very difficult conditions out there. But he managed to pull it all together and keep it out of the wall, but only second place. Rowland on pole, though.
Oliver Rowland, what can I say? That was absolutely phenomenal. The control you had over the car. Congratulations on your pole position here in Seoul.
Yeah, thank you. That was probably one of the, probably the most fun I've ever had in a race car. I mean, Every time we drove, the track changed. So honestly, in the semi-final, how I survived turn 18, because I came to a river, was beyond me. It just was straight, and I didn't really know where I was. But yeah, amazing, you know. Sometimes you have to take the opportunity when it arises and rains randomly like that. And today I was determined to do that, and yeah, the team did great as well.
We really enjoyed watching you, that's for sure. It looked like a lot of fun. Kind of ironic that you're up against your new teammate, Lucas de Grassi.
Yeah.
You showing him who's boss?
I said to Dilbag on the in-lab, I said that's the first one for Lucas. But no, I'm joking. It's great to have us both there, and hopefully it's, you know, next year looking forward to him being there and pushing the whole team forward.
Brilliant. Well, let's bring Marco Peroni in. Here we are, the head of partnerships at Julius Baer, to present you with the pole position trophy.
Pole position for Mahindra, awesome stuff. Dilbag Gill joins us. Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Feels good, right?
Yeah, long time coming, man. It's been since London last year.
The conditions out here are hideous, but we took such joy from watching Oliver take that car around the track. I mean, for you, it's different. It's a very nervous experience for you. But when you step back, can you see how good that drive was from Oliver?
Well, it was unexpected because like you just suddenly see 610s coming over in one sector between the things in a duels, and you don't know where it's come from, and it kept coming consistently. But I think his confidence level was quite high in qualifying today.
Absolutely.
But could you see it on the GPS? Did you have any idea where this moment was? Because we saw the moment in 18 in the semi-final when he got completely sideways both ways in the straight line. But could you after semi-final did you know where his advantage was?
Not exactly. I think we just for us to get our tires set, and it was a bit of a panic getting into the finals because we didn't have too much time to turn a car around, because as soon as he came and had to get out, so the prep for the finals was not the best. But I think it was an advantage being the second car in each of the duels, so we at least had a clue of what's happening in front of us.
This far into the season, with only 2 races to go, is it important for your driver to get points or team to get points?
If the driver gets points, the team gets points, so I think it's really important to have that.
Yeah, okay, nice.
I mean, you're in that championship fight right now. You can move up at least one place, can't you, if you get some decent points today and tomorrow?
That's our aim, to try and move up at least a little bit more, because we don't have too much to fight for today.
Yeah, because each place you make up, that's more money, right? It's the money's paid on the championship points, not the driver points.
I wish Formula gave us more money for that. There's not too much there.
Spoken like a true team principal.
Absolutely. Dilbag, good luck for the race. Absolutely awesome stuff. Let's talk about Alexander, though. He had a bit of a moment putting the car into the barriers.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge because he had that in practice also, and then in quali. But at the end of the day, we know these conditions will come back to him in the race, and he should be quite strong in it.
Good stuff. No damage, no serious damage to the car?
There is some damage, but it'll be ready for the race. There's no problem with that.
Perfect. All right, thank you very much, Dilbag. Really appreciate it. If you give Mike, believe it or not, Mike is our Mike guy. So Mike, you can step in. There you go. Thanks, Dilbag. I just want to talk to you, Dario, about that drive from Oliver. The handwork on the steering wheel was outrageous.
Ninja-like reactions, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's one thing when you come out of a corner, you're ready for it just to slide and to have to catch that slide. When it happens in a dead straight line, though, at high speed, he caught it one way, caught it the other, and gained a load of time. So beautiful work by Oliver Rowland, and puts him in a good position for this afternoon.
Well, I was in the comms booth with you and Jack, and you were kind of skipping up and down on your seat because it was a joy to watch.
It really is. When you watch somebody on the limit with a car in such tricky conditions, it's lovely to see. And one thing you do see in the damp and the wet conditions, you can see who's getting it absolutely right and who's not, and the driver has more of an influence on what's going on with the car. I mean, obviously a slow car, you're not going to pull it all up the front of the grid in any conditions, but you could see who was really getting it right, especially through that stadium section when they were just sliding the car, and that was cool to watch.
Yeah, he walked past and he went, that was a lot of fun. It absolutely looked like a lot of fun. Let's go over to Nicky, who is with the team principal, the man who is sat at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Ian James.
I am indeed. Although, Ian, you always seem to be relaxed in any kind of environment. You never seem to carry the weight on your shoulders or the pressure, or is it just all sort of bubbling underneath?
It's there. No, it's definitely there. No, listen, we knew that the weather was going to play a role today, and it's certainly proved to be the case. So not the best qualifying, or not really what we were aiming for, but as always with Formula E, I think the race, especially in these conditions, is going to throw up a few surprises as well. So we just need to make sure that we execute as we hopefully always do.
I mean, apologies, because we did just basically pull you out of your team briefing. Oh, I was going to make you look professional and say team briefing. What was the debrief about from that session, and what have you learned? Because obviously this is a brand new track for everybody. I know you've put in loads of extra practice on the simulators, but ultimately you never really know until you're actually here, driving it in the flesh.
No, actually, I don't know, because the briefing, I was multitasking with lunch and briefing. So, no, it's. I mean, as you say, a lot of practice goes in beforehand, but until you're here, you don't really know how things are going to pan out. And we were so surprised at just how tight, especially that first qualifying group was. Normally, in a new circuit, you expect that differentiation to be a little bit wider. But no, I think that at the end of the day, we've done what we could have done, that we've got caught out by a couple of things in qualifying. We now need to make sure that whatever strategy is being discussed in there can be well executed in the race.
Now, if I was to say I'll give you £1 million to predict the race results, give us some realistic race results here, what's it going to be?
I think... Oh, that's really tough, isn't it? That's really putting us up there. I think if barring any major incidents, those who've qualified well have got a great shot at just sort of extending the lead. We've seen the attack mode doesn't play such a crucial role here in terms of the time loss. So I'm not expecting that to mix things up maybe as much as it normally does. But the weather's there, and I think it's impossible to call. I'm gonna have to sort of, as much as I'd love
You've just passed on £1 million, because obviously I've got it, of course.
Clearly, so yeah, I know, that's how difficult it is, genuinely.
And just obviously this is a track that it's not one of the kind of energy intense ones, isn't it? It's quite low when it comes to energy consumption. Does that mean we're going to see more overtaking opportunities?
I think once you get out of the stadium and you get onto that sort of three-sided square that we've got down the bottom, some great corners coming up there, and I think that that's going to lead to some really great overtaking opportunities. So I think that the action that we're going to see this afternoon my expectation is going to be pretty cool.
Well, have a good one. Sorry, enjoy the rest of your lunch and that debrief. Ian James.
Right, Oliver, you just come over and said I'm still shaking. We loved that lap, I'll be honest with you. It looked exciting, you said it was fun, but crikey, that was a stunning middle sector.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the most fun I've ever had in a race car.
Oh, honestly? Wow, that's a statement! Wow!
The concentration, the intensity, the zero room for error was just on another level, and I loved it.
Look at that smile.
I knew today was my chance to... It's been a difficult season, and I knew today was my chance to make a difference, and I was determined to do so, and I put everything on the line.
Good lad.
Right, tell me about turn 18, because in the semi-final.
I mean, that's the last corner in the last run, but in 18 in the semi-final, I arrived to a river, and I thought I was done. But
so
somehow the wheel was there, and it was there, and then it became straight, and then it's like, well, I need to brake. Yeah, I can't describe to you that moment.
I thought you were going to tell us it was all men. It was just...
I can tell you I didn't push quite that hard in the final.
But what was nice, Oliver, is that it all looked so natural to you, and we know that we have a really, really strong driver lineup in Formula E, and these conditions really test you guys, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, of course you need the car underneath you in whatever you do, and I had a great car today. I knew what I needed to do. I needed to put energy in the tyres from the beginning, from the moment we went out in group qualifying. We did that, we got the tyre temperature and we kept it, and that was really important today. And honestly, it was hard in the quarterfinal because Sete Kamara stopped, which meant I didn't really do the second half of the lap pushing, and then it was on my mind. I knew Pascal was fast. And then that was why I think in the semi I was so on the limit, and I thought I'd thrown it away in the last corner as well. I was very deep.
We might have thought that too.
Yeah, it was
brilliant. You've got to do it all again, about 45 minutes plus a lap this afternoon.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, it's going to be a lot of fun. Our pole sitter. Well done, Oliver. Right, that's it. Make sure you join us for the race. At the moment, the rain has stopped, but it's predicted that it's going to come back. It's going to be really exciting. A little bit later on, live from Seoul.
All 5 lights are on, and we go green in Seoul. Crash ahead, be careful.
Push to attack this lap, push to attack this lap, attack this lap.